Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another session with the older man. Yesterday's video is creating quite a stir. And if you go to the comment section, you'll see what I'm talking about. And for those of you that haven't watched it yet, it was a segment where I highlighted where a number of single women who have purchased homes in the U.S. because they got caught up in this craze that, I'm a strong, independent woman and I should own my own home. And because I can make the down payment and I can make the mortgage payment, hey, I should buy a home and flex. And I could buy it on emotional reasons because I'm a boss bee. Hey, listen, I'm throwing out a bit of humor, but a lot of the reasons why a lot of these women actually made these decisions wasn't based on sound financial reasoning. It was based more on their emotional response to the whole I'm a strong, independent woman. So I want to respond to quite a few of the comments from that video yesterday, but I want to highlight this gentleman who breaks down every single point in detail why you should not look at buying a home to live in. This man is a multimillionaire. He's a professional financial advisor, and he breaks it down, so beautifully, so simple. I'm going to feature a bit of his video, but of course, based on fair use, I'm not going to play the whole video. And number two, I'm going to interrupt in between it because, hey, it's his video. But I think that you guys will see very clearly after this video exactly why I say what I say, simply from a guy with a shitload of experience in the world of real estate. Okay? So, my friends, give me a thumbs up on this video, please, because this is another educational moment, my friends. So, in this segment of Let's Make Money,
let's talk money. Let's talk money. Let's talk money. With the older man, he's got the wisdom, honey. Remember whenever you're in doubt, always ask an older man, he'll show you the right route.
Yeah, we're going to talk about why it's not to your advantage to buy a home to live in and why renting is actually a better choice. All right, so let's get into it. This gentleman, I featured him before. His name is Ramit, and he has an awesome channel on making money and saving money, financial advice. So guys, I'm going to place his link in the description of this video. You definitely have to go over there and check out the rest of the video. All right, let's get into it.
I'm a multimillionaire and I rent my house. In fact, I've rented for 20 years and I've made more money renting than I would have owning a place. But should you do the same? In fact, should you rent or buy your house? A lot of us have been told buying is the best thing ever. Build equity. Renting is throwing your money away. I think that for the biggest purchase of our lives, we need to go into more detail. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 specific steps to break down if you should rent or buy with an exact address so you can follow along with the analysis. And I'll give you a clear set of rules to make sure you make the right decision for you. Starting with step number 1, change your mindset around renting. The first thing I want you to do is to accept the fact that yes, renting can make financial sense in a lot of cases. And if you're going to truly use this video to come to the right decision, I want you to understand why. People do not like to even think that renting can be a good financial decision because we have been told renting is throwing your money away. But I'm going to prove this to you with actual numbers.
You know, I know a lot of you guys have come back and said, hey man, if you tell a woman that you're renting these days, she's not interested in you. She want to know that you got your own house. And guys, listen, don't let a female, an emotion of a woman, make you broke. That is the number one thing you guys got to learn. If you're looking for a woman to make you make stupid decision that will keep you either super stressed, tied to a freaking bank for most of your life, and she don't understand finances and she's just going on her emotions, that is not the woman for you, my friend. Okay? So get rid of that mindset, please. Make this woman know that you're in charge of your finances, and the reason why she's here is because you're a sound financial planner. Women got to learn that, hey, if this man is frugal and he's counting his pennies and he's not stupid enough to spend on me, this is a good man. That's what you gentlemen have to learn. because that's where you pick the right woman. Any woman who picks a man who spends stupid money on her, ladies, that's not a good man. That's a mark. And if you like him enough, you will say, hey, baby, listen, you don't have to spend this money on me. I would prefer you to save that money. I would prefer you to invest that money in something else. If we want to build a future together, that's the kind of husband I want. And if you tell any man that, that man will look at you and say, you're the woman I want to marry. But we don't hear women saying that shit. Women are always just looking to suck the man financially. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Let's take a look at a specific unit that has been both bought and rented. 776 Bryant Street in Palo Alto, California. This is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,521 square foot condo. It was sold in 2018 for $2.15 million. Now, this is Palo Alto. It's extremely expensive. Now, I'm starting with this example in Palo Alto because you're going to see the numbers and they are insane. But don't just think that because Palo Alto is expensive, this only applies there. You're going to learn how to do the analysis so you can try it for your own city. By the way, if you look online, you can see that the current price estimate has decreased by $154,000 since it sold. Now, that's just an estimate. We don't really know what the sale price would be today, but you have to remember that prices go up and prices go down. Unfortunately, we really only talk about when prices go up. Let's take a look.
And listen, whether the price go up or down, it doesn't matter unless you have to sell. Okay? So guys, you got to stop thinking about, oh, market going up and I'm holding the house. Market going down, oh, I own a house. The only thing you should be worrying about, taxes, interest rates, insurance rates, homeowners insurance, content insurance, and, the cost of maintaining. Those are the things that you need to focus on. But market value doesn't affect you unless you have to sell the property.
Let's take a look. Instead of being worth $2.15 million, it's now estimated at $1.9 million. Again, just an estimate. If you put 20% down at the current average interest rate for mortgages of 7%, you'd pay about $10,624 a month on your mortgage alone. Okay, just the mortgage. Now that we know how much this place would cost to own, let's see how much it would cost to rent. If you were to rent this same unit, it would cost you $5,400 a month, which is exactly what it rented for in January of this year. That's about half of what it would cost you per month to own. And that's not even factoring in what I call phantom costs of ownership. Things like maintenance or closing costs or all kinds of hidden or counterintuitive fees that would make renting an even better financial decision. Okay, now we see it, black and white. It is clear that sometimes renting can be a better financial decision. Let's move on to step number 2. Understand the myths around housing. After you've acknowledged that renting can sometimes be a better financial decision, the next thing you got to do is get to the bottom of a lot of housing myths. Now, you've heard these repeated so many times that a lot of people actually just believe them.
This is where a lot of you get caught. This is the kind of crap I hear in the comment section. A lot of the comebacks that you come at me with are going to be in these myths. Listen up carefully, my friends.
But I want you to go deeper. I want you to stop being trapped by these myths that might not actually be true. Buying a house in America is rarely a carefully measured purchase. In my estimate, less than 5% of people carefully run the numbers. Instead, most of us make the biggest purchase of our lives based on what we think we should do, based on how we feel, based on what we have been told by some random person. These expectations and myths surrounding renting and homeownership are so heavily embedded in our culture that almost all of us believe they're simply true. It's caused so many people to buy a house when they're not ready, or worse, when it's not even the right choice for them. Let me break down 3 common housing myths for you so we can get to the truth. Myth: renting a house means you're just paying your landlord's mortgage. All right, let me explain how people think landlords operate. They think a landlord owns a place that costs them $1,000 a month. So they go, $1,000 a month, let me add on 10% for profit. They're paying my mortgage. I could go on vacation because of my tenants. Listen, your landlord can only charge you what the market will bear. They cannot simply take whatever they bought, add on a profit margin, and go, if they could do that, why would they stop at 5% or 10%? Why wouldn't they go to 15 or 100%? The answer is they can't simply charge you whatever they want. Sometimes landlords make a profit. Sometimes they lose money. A lot of times, they don't even know how much their costs actually are. Please stop thinking of landlords as these omniscient observers who know all their numbers. No, you don't even know how much that roof repair cost you. You don't know how to amortize that over 11 years. You're just charging whatever the market will bear. And if they don't like it, if there's 1 month of vacancy, wiping out your entire year's profit, they go, oh, it's so hard. Oh, government, protect me. This myth has led to so many people rushing into a house because they think someone else is getting the better end of a bargain. Myth: if you're paying rent, you're throwing money away.
You know, over here in Dubai, a lot of it is controlled by the government, meaning my landlord cannot increase the rent more than 15% per year. 2 years ago, it used to be 10%. They just changed it to 15%, simply because there's too many wars in the region where a lot of people are flying to live here. Ukraine war. A lot of Russians and a lot of Ukrainians have moved over to Dubai as a safe haven. Remember, this is a tax haven. You don't pay income tax over here. So people come over here, especially the middle class and the rich. They move here. They're buying. They're looking for safety. Okay? You got a war in Israel and in Palestine. A lot of those people have ran over here for safe haven. So what that's doing is it's pushing up the rental rates. So I've seen my rent go up almost 60% in the last 3 years. Now the reason why it's averaging 20% for me, because I was paying below the market rate for the area that I'm in. So the government looks at the area that you're living in, then it sets a range of the rent that you should be paying in that area. The landlord will look at that rate and he will say, all right, based on what you're paying, I would like to charge you an extra 10% on your lease coming up. And he has to give me at least 90 days notice on that. Okay? I will agree or I will disagree. I will move within that 90 days or we make an agreement, right? Now, even though some people are paying a lot more in this area, if I am already below the market, he cannot push it any more than 15%. So he can't just come one day and say, yeah, now today I'm charging you 30% more or 50% more because, you know, the market is going crazy. He can't do that to me. Government controls that. I don't know how it is in your state. Let me know. All right, let's continue. But it's important for you guys to see the different methods that are used around the world. Because, listen, man, landlords are not the king.
Myth: if you're paying rent, you're throwing money away. Well, I like to have a little fun with this topic, so I posted a question on Twitter. I said, hey, I spent $30 on dinner in New York. Great food, great service. I plan to go back. Did I throw money away on dinner? And wouldn't you know, 95% of people said, no, Ramit, that sounds like great. Then I said, hey, I spent X thousand dollars renting an apartment last month in New York. And for the last 10 years, good location, good views, good roof. I plan to keep renting. Did I throw money away? Notice this time, it wasn't 95%. It was only 81% who said no. In other words, 19% of people said, you threw money away. What do you notice? Virtually everyone agreed that when I paid for dinner, it was worth it. But when I said I rented an apartment, suddenly 19% of people thought that I threw money away on rent. But I'm not throwing money away on rent. I'm paying for a roof over my head. I'm paying for a great view. I'm paying for somebody to fix issues so that I don't ever have to go to Home Depot in my life. That's a rich life. When you pay rent, you are paying for value. When you go to a restaurant, you are paying for value, the value of knowledge of cooking, the dishes, someone to clean the dishes, and service. The same concept applies when you pay for essentially anything.
Listen, in this complex that I live in, right? I get a little backyard, small enough for me to maintain. I don't have to deal with stuff. Anything breaks, I get it repaired, landlord pays for it. The reason why I pay slightly below average price because I am the guy that will go up and clean out and maintain the air conditioned units because we're living in a desert. Once the dust accumulates in these things, the landlord could be paying a hell of a lot of money to repair these bloody things. But I go up every month. I have a reminder on my calendar, clean the ACs. I go up there and I spray out the condensers, make sure I get all the dust and the sand out of there. So I do all of these things and he appreciates me doing this extra work. So he rewards me for maintaining his property as well. For me, it's not a big deal. I feel like, hey, you know what? I get to stay active. I get to do my thing. Still feel like I'm a man, you know? I basically take care of stuff for him, right? So he rewards me with that. That's why I pay slightly below market for it. Point is, my friend, is that, but add to that, I get a pool, I got tennis courts, I got a massive lake, sort of a walking, running track around me. I get private security at the gates. I get 3 parks in here where my daughters can go and just chill and relax whenever they want to get around some greenery. All of this is given to me. I pay 1 rent. That's it. I don't have to worry about anything else. So I pay for a lifestyle that I want, and I get a lot extra with it without having to buy it.
You're not throwing money away on rent just as you're not throwing money away at your local restaurant. Myth. You need to buy a house because you're building equity. In America, there's a magic word. It doesn't matter how much. It doesn't matter how to get it. We don't understand anything about it, but we love it. And it's called equity. I get a lot of criticism because people think I ignore equity. I don't ignore equity. I actually understand it. Now, yes, it is true that you can build equity with a house, but it actually takes a long time. And there's a phrase in real estate, don't pay $1 to make a dime. Let me show you what I mean. I'll use the same address from our first step. Let's assume that you have a 30-year mortgage at $1.59 million at 7% interest. Look at this amortization table, something that 99.999% of Americans have never even heard of.
This is what I ended my video with yesterday. I told you guys, you got to learn to look at this amortization calculator. You can find it free online. Just print it out and look at when you actually start paying on the principal. This man is breaking it down. That's why I needed to bring you this video, guys. You need to watch this.
This is showing you how much you are paying in principal, in other words, equity, versus interest on your loan. You can see that it takes 21 years for you to start paying more towards principal than to interest. So we might actually say, I don't want to waste money on interest. Do you see how ridiculous these myths are?
Now, yesterday, I was telling you guys it would take you 7 to 9 years, but I was looking at a 15-year mortgage, right? I would never borrow for 30 years, by the way. I would never do that for any home. 30 years, you're literally getting screwed, okay? If you have a 30-year mortgage, this is the amount that you're going to be paying. The longer the mortgage, the more interest you're going to be paying. I prefer to save the money and then buy the house if I was in their position.
By the way, I'll link the amortization calculator in the description for you. You should put your own numbers in there and play around. You're going to be shocked. Remember these myths and why they are untrue, and you'll be much more likely to make a choice that's right for you. I encourage you to really take some time to decide if buying a house is right for you at this current season of life, and if that is a rich life. If it is, amazing. I support you. Buying a house is the biggest financial decision you'll ever make, and it's also a lifestyle decision. You have to factor in all these things, but what I'm specifically focused on here is helping you run the numbers. Here's some good non-financial reasons to buy a house. You have kids, you want to stay in that school district or build memories in a certain house. Your parents are moving in with you. You want to design a house together with your spouse. You love repairing and tinkering your house and renovating it, or you just want to. Notice what's not on this list. You need the price of the house to go up. I'll repeat myself again. Buying a house doesn't always mean building wealth. So factor it appropriately. Buy for the right reasons. Now, before we move on to step 3, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I want to keep sending you new videos with real numbers, including money psychology going forward. And thank you very much for watching. All right, now that you've stopped believing all those common housing myths, that brings me to step number 3. Run the numbers for renting versus buying. So far, you've learned that renting sometimes can be a better financial decision than buying. You've stopped believing these harmful housing myths, and now we get to do something near and dear to my heart. Run the numbers. Now, before buying a house, you should always run the numbers. And no, I don't mean asking your freaking broker how much you can afford. You should treat your broker like you should hold him out arm's length away. I trust a broker as far as I could throw him.
This is what a lot of these women never did. They never ran the numbers. And if they did look at numbers, the numbers that were given to them came from their broker, came from their bankers. These people don't have your interests in mind. Your broker's just interested in freaking making that sale. These people are not in your corner. This is where the problem comes in. Oh yeah, my realtor told me that. They are bullshit artists. Trust me. I've worked in the industry for 17 years. We're not interested in your interests. We're interested in the freaking commissions. Okay? You have to run the numbers yourself. It's the biggest financial decision you'll ever make. You better make sure, double check and triple check the numbers, the real numbers. That means you need to get an independent party outside of what you're doing. And then be logical enough to not get emotionally involved in the sale, just being very, very critical. And that's difficult for a lot of people.
Oh, broker's so nice. Broker wants to make money from you, okay? Broker's using you to pay for their BMW. Do not ask your broker how much you can afford. They're not the person to ask. Run your own numbers. Now, very few people do this. A lot of people get mad at me at even suggesting you should run the numbers. Why? Because housing always goes up in America, you freaks. Let me explain how this works. Somebody sees two houses. One of them is a 2-bedroom house renting for $2,000. Next door is a house that costs $2,000 a month for the mortgage. What would you do? Almost everybody goes, I'll get the mortgage because I'm building equity. Not so fast. They forget to factor in 30 to 50% of phantom costs, things they didn't even consider. Closing costs, maintenance, opportunity costs, transaction costs, renovations, and on and on. Most people do not realize the total cost of ownership, TCO, until they've already bought the house. And I don't want that for you. That is why I'm constantly reminding you, rent is the maximum you will pay, but a mortgage is the minimum you will pay.
Oh, I love how he just brought that home. I really feel sorry for a lot of these women. Most of them would never think this far down the road. As long as they can afford that mortgage payment, they're jumping on the bandwagon.
Now, to figure out your total housing costs when renting, it's pretty easy. It's your monthly rent plus your utilities like electric, water, internet, whatever utility bill your landlord charges. Sure, feel free to factor in other things if you have somebody come and clean your house once a month, etc. Factor it all in. But basically, that is your housing costs. On the other hand, your total housing costs when you own include not just the ordinary costs, but also the phantom costs that people often forget about. Let's break them down. Your principal. This is the part of the payment that goes towards paying down your principal. Closing costs. Buyers can expect to pay roughly 2 to 5% of the purchase price on closing costs. Interest. You saw that in the amortization table. That can be quite high over the course of a 30-year loan. Property tax, which by the way can increase and sometimes dramatically like we see in states like Florida. Insurance. Maintenance is one that most people totally neglect. It doesn't show up in most calculations. This is a cost to maintain the home, including utilities, yes, but also the roof repair that happens 8 years from now, and that's not even broken yet. You have to actually factor that in. A simple guideline to use is 1 to 3% of your purchase price every year in maintenance.
It's amazing how many homes in America are built like crap. And I don't say that to be insulting, but it is true. In the Caribbean, you will never ever be able to resell a house that's made out of wood. It would be impossible for you to sell a home that is sold in America made out of literally all freaking timber. You will not be able to sell that in the Cayman Islands. If you made a mistake of building that, no, nobody's going to buy it. Resale value, nil. I've seen people who have done that, made those mistakes. American came over and they built these homes made out of wood. Couldn't sell them, man. It's rough. If you're not building with solid block, concrete, and steel, so that when those hurricanes come around, nothing moves except maybe the roof, you're not going to resell it. But the reason I'm telling you this is because anything that's built from wood, it is prone to a massive amount of maintenance. I own a bloody home in Cayman, block and steel. Everything is freaking tight. That home was the home that we lived in since 1968. You understand? And nothing moves on that house, man. I'm telling you, it is freaking insane how solid that house is. That house have been through at least 15 to 20 hurricanes. Nothing moved on that house. Yeah, pressure treated rafters and ceiling joists, hurricane straps everything down. All the walls are solid concrete and steel poured. Okay, it doesn't move. It's amazing how back then my father had the foresight. Hey, I'm going to build a house that lasts forever, man. This house will last me through 2 more lifetimes. I'm telling you. But yeah, you build a house in America? Oh no, man. I don't understand how you guys build like that. Really, I don't. But that's another thing. But what it will do, it will cost you a hell of a lot of money in maintenance.
Then, of course, we have additional fees like HOA, condo fees, etc. Don't forget transaction costs, like when you sell, and renovation, which Americans love to do, and then they deceive themselves by saying it's an investment. You almost never make your money back on renovations. So to calculate your total housing costs if you own, add up the monthly costs of all of these items. And you can see, even without any numbers, that owning can cost a lot more. Now, let me show you a quick and easy way to run the numbers. We're going to use the same unit I talked about earlier, 776 Bryant Street in Palo Alto, California. Now, I'm going to pull up the New York Times rent versus buy calculator. I love this calculator because it has so many variables you can play around with. It makes it really easy to see if buying or renting is right for you. And I'll link to it in the description below. After plugging in that lower price of $1.9 million to buy and the $5,400 a month to rent, without factoring in anything else, we can quickly see that it never makes financial sense to buy this property. In fact, over 10 years, you would save $900,000 renting. That's why when I post these funny pictures of me eating all this food and traveling and stuff, I go, so glad that I can afford to travel here because I'm not throwing money away on interest. And then everybody on the internet gets mad because they don't know how to run a single calculation. And then I'm just sitting there chomping on my pepperoni pizza going, what's the problem, guys? This calculator automatically sets how long you plan to stay in your house to 10 years, but it actually turns out that the average amount of time people spend in their home is only 8 years. So I've reduced that number to 8.
I said yesterday, I think I said 7 to 9 years. So I hit the nail right on the head. I know the numbers. I know the average person do not live in one location for long. Usually they lose a job or they change jobs, and it's the number one criteria for people to move. That's where the biggest problem comes in. But let him proceed with this because this is an important part. The rent versus buy calculator is something that each and every one of you should actually do before you look at buying a house.
Now let's look at the loan details. The current average 30-year fixed rate mortgage in the US is around 7%. So I've updated that to 7% on the calculator. And just to be conservative, we're going to put a 20% down payment. Now, a lot of people do not do this. I believe you should be able to before you buy. Let's put 20% just to be conservative. You can see that renting saves you $691,000 over 8 years. You can see that by adjusting those numbers slightly, it didn't really make much of a difference. It still makes more financial sense in this case to rent. Before we go on, just remember this. Why is this so counterintuitive? Because every month people pay their rent and they feel like they're losing a little piece of their soul. I don't. I go, amazing, because I can invest literally thousands of dollars per month and make even more than I would have owning. All right, let's keep going. Let's factor in something a lot of people forget about, maintenance, as I mentioned, which is usually 1 to 3%. This unit is in California in a very expensive city. I'm gonna actually be conservative and change the maintenance to 2%. Realistically, I think it's probably more than 3%, but let's just keep it at 2. After factoring that in, you can see buying this house costs you more than $800,000 over 8 years. Makes no financial sense to buy this property. Now let's factor in another thing that very few people do, the opportunity cost of investing your down payment. What I mean by that is, just let's say that your down payment was $100,000.
This is so important. You have no idea. You work your ass off to make that down payment. You don't realize that once you have made that bulk amount of money, if you just let it sit in the stock market for 10 years, it's amazing how much money you would make on compound investing. That means investing, making interest, and then reinvesting that interest and then making it compound. Let's continue.
What if we took that $100,000 and simply invested it in the market? Let's assume we make 7%. That's a conservative estimate. Whoa. That amount you would save by renting just shot up to $1.1 million over 8 years. Again, We're factoring these things in one by one. Renting saves you $1.1 million over 8 years. Now, you can keep going. There's so many more variables you should include. But you can see that just by using the simple New York Times rent versus buy calculator to quickly run the numbers, it never makes financial sense to buy this property. Now, a lot of you going, well, what about equity, Ramit? What about equity? At the end of 30 years, I own the place. First of all, you're not going to stay there for 30 years. Very few people do. I hope when you buy, you stay there for a long time because that's when you really start to build actual equity. Second, if you rent, you need to be investing. That is the key to the entire thing. If renting makes better financial sense, you still need to invest. That's where real wealth is created. So use this tool to run the numbers yourself, play around with the different variables, play around in your own city. I want you to become really good at this. Okay.
I'm going to stop the video there on his side simply because it's his video, but there is another seriously good part that's going to come up after that you guys have to go over to his channel and watch it. I just wanted to make sure that I ram this information home deep into your brains so that you can understand the ramifications of buying a home. If you're looking at long term, like he said, great. 20, 30 years in a one location, perfect. Do not fall for this mantra, oh, you got to own your own home to be successful. This American dream is BS. So I want to read a few comments from yesterday's post so that you guys can see what kind of feedback I got from that video. Kroll2 said, why record these videos? Just sell your house and move in with your mamas or start renting again. Big deal. Guys, you know that the women going to come out here and they're going to bitch and moan about how unfair life is and how things are hard because they're looking for save a baby mama simp to come and help them out. That's what these girls are doing, man. Listen, they're strategic. All this is an advertising campaign on somebody come and take care of me. That's all it is, man. Rustin Frederick says, hey, older man, I don't agree with your advice of not buying a home. One day we all have to retire. Then what? You could have retired in a paid off home, but now you still have to pay massive rent in your old age. No, thank you. There's nothing wrong with paying rent in your old age. If you had invested wisely, I'm accumulating enough wealth where I'm getting in dividends every 90 days that could easily pay my rent and still maintain the principal in the accounts that I have paying my rent off. So this idea that the only vehicle that you're going to have to pay your rent is the house, it's a pile of BS. You need to get out of that mindset, my friend. You don't need a house to live in to actually pay your rent. You should be invested in the meantime. Yes, sure. A paid off house is fine, but you still got to pay a hell of a lot of taxes on that bloody house. Still not yours. Mary Yellen Doran said, renting is no bargain. Your rent keeps going up and you have nothing to show for it. I believe in owning your own home despite the challenges. That being said, there are times when you live paycheck to paycheck to make repairs. I think the whole video covered exactly what you're concerned about here. And my comment to the previous guy covers that as well. Bottom line is that everything will go up. Everything. It will go up and it will go down. But as long as you are investing and the investments that you are making can cover your living expenses, you're good to go. Mokadis Iman says, just this stress alone will make you lose your hairs. That's why I never think of buying a home. Abroad, I sleep very peaceful, paying rent. Yes, there are options outside the country. So that's something else to look at, you know. Big Fish one day said, buying a house and not being able to keep up with the maintenance is a killer. If you're not able to fix things yourself, you're going to suffer. Being in my home for 18 years, fixed and painted everything except one time I was just lazy and paid someone. One time in 18 years. Lawn care, I do that myself. I service and repair my equipment when needed. Being independent is hard work. Laughing. Ladies, you can get a bear to help you. Yeah, that bear in the woods can easily help them out. Kent Prince says, those maintenance costs is costing them single woman a whole lot of cash. Better make friends with a handyman guy with benefits. Yeah. Oh, man. This gentleman said, my brother and his wife brought a brand new 4-bedroom, 3-bath house with a new pool in 2022. They only have one teenage child. Wow. He texted me about 3 weeks ago asking me to loan him $600 for a bill he couldn't pay. Some homeowners are broker than some renters. I'd rather sleep in my car, hotel, Airbnb, or do van life before I ever buy a house. I'll just keep my multiple streams of income, invest, travel, work on my business, and be homeless. Thank you. That's the way to do it, my friend. You're doing it the right way, my friend. You're doing it the right way. John Swap says, the biggest problem with buying a house is that it makes it difficult to move to take a better job opportunity or find a job if you are laid off. All right, one more. JF says, as a real estate investor and more importantly, a vulture, I'm rubbing my hands together like Birdman. Yes, because I said yesterday, listen, man, I made a lot of money selling foreclosure homes. They're vultures, people who just wait for banks to have foreclosures, just waiting for opportunities. These are vulture purchasers. They invest in people who are in trouble. You swoop in, make a good offer that was below market price to the bank, and you usually get it. A few little repairs, rent it out, or hold on for it for a couple of years and then resell it. Make a freaking bank off of it. That's how these guys work. So anyway, my friends, listen, I hope this now puts this whole idea of house ownership to rest. So I hope you guys can now understand when I say buying a home to live in, buying a brand new car, and getting a woman pregnant before you're ready is the three biggest financial killers that you will ever come across. I'm not going to even start with getting a divorce. I'm not going there. The point is, I'm talking about the young men who are trying to focus on making it. All right? So, my friends, listen. Give me a thumbs up on this message if you learned something here today. It's impossible for you not to have learned something. Come on. Give me a thumbs up. Let's talk about it. Let's have some comments in the comments section. And of course, if you need to book a session with the older man, I'm here for you guys. Okay? Join our membership site. And remember, always remember, whenever in doubt, always ask an older man. We know a few things, man. Okay? I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.